listening to BBC Radio 4. BBC Radio 4. On BBC Sounds, on FM, on DAB digital radio, and on your smart speaker. Play BBC Radio 4. BBC News at 5 o'clock. This is Jane Steele. The King has become the first monarch to disclose his tax bill, revealing that he paid £12.9 million in the financial year ending April 2025.
You're listening to BBC Radio 4 on 198 kHz longwave. This service is closing. BBC transmissions on this frequency will end on the 27th of June this year. However, you can continue to listen in many other ways. You can find BBC Radio 4 online via BBC Sounds. Radio 4 is available on DAB, digital radio, and through your digital television, including Freely. Radio 4 is also available via FM radio on 92 to 95 megahertz and 103 to 105 megahertz. Plus, you can listen via your smart speaker. Just say, play Radio 4. Information on how to listen can be found on the BBC website at bbc.co.uk/reception.
Hello, it's 6 o'clock on Friday the 26th of June. This is Today with Katya Adler and Amol Rajan.
The headlines today: the King has become the first monarch to reveal his personal tax bill in an annual report which also shows the rising cost of funding the royal family.
Woman's Hour is dancing all our heat-weary cares away in an hour here on Radio 4 in the company of the DJ Smoking Joe, the singer-songwriter Beth Orton, and Varsha Gohill, who beat the lawyers in her 23-year-long divorce case by becoming one. That's at 10. Now, though, it's Desert Island Discs with Lauren Laverne.
My castaway this week is the writer Joe Nesbo. Known as the king of Nordic noir, his internationally best-selling crime thrillers, following the exploits of renegade detective Harry Hula, have been translated into 50 languages.
Sailing by and the shipping forecasts were a fixture of Radio 4 Longwave for decades, as were Test Match Special, Yesterday in Parliament and the Daily Service. All have moved to other homes on BBC Radio in recent years, and this Saturday, June the 27th, the BBC Longwave network finally closes.
Yes, the three transmitter stations at Droitwich in Worcestershire and Westerglen and Berghead in Scotland will all cease operation, so it's very much the end of an era, and we're going to look at this era with the help of Jeffrey Berinsky, a broadcast historian. Jeffrey, welcome to the media show. Right, let's start right at the beginning. What is longwave, and when did the BBC start using it?
Well, longwave, as the name implies, is very long waves. In the case of the Droitwich transmitter carrying Radio 4, it's 1,500 metres, just shy of a mile. And the unique property of these long waves is that they can travel very long distances. They bend round the Earth quite easily. And if you have enough power in the transmitter, and that often means a lot of power, 500 kilowatts in the case of Droitwich, 500 one-bar fires, and a very big aerial, 200 metres high, 700 feet, and a lot of wire. To launch those long waves, you need big aerials. They can reach a long distance. And the BBC started broadcasting, in fact from Daventry, in 1925, when BBC stood for the British Broadcasting Company, before it became the corporation. Then in 1934 they moved to Droitwich, which they chose carefully as a good site near the centre of the kingdom, so that one station could cover the entire country, although, as Ros, you just said, it needed a little reinforcement from a couple of stations in Scotland.
So you had these incredibly powerful masts able to broadcast hundreds of miles away. For the people very close to those masts, presumably they must have been getting exceptional reception.
Well, it could be an embarrassment at times. It wasn't unknown if you had for rusty drain pipes or fences, or there are even stories which should be true about people's fillings working as crude radio receivers and picking up the radio if you're near the transmitter, whether it's Droitwich longwave or Brookman's Park medium wave or one of the others.
So you'd have had Radio 4 coming out of your drain pipe?
Yes.
Or your mouth.
Or even your mouth. That was really embarrassing. I've read about it.
Can it be true?
It is more than urban myth, I reckon.
Interesting. And you've got a long-wave radio with you here on the media show table, a beautiful thing for people listening. Just describe it to us, please.
It's made by, am I allowed to say the maker's name?
Definitely so.
Made by Murphy in 1969, when in Japan they weren't making them in England anymore. And it is about, 10 inches wide, portable with a handle, 2 knobs on the front, one for volume, one for tuning.
And I can just make out the knobs on the top. VHS, and then you've got an S for shortwave, L for long wave,
and M for medium
and
wave.
there's a car on the what's that?
And that is so that you can plug a car radio aerial into it and use it in your car, in theory. That's a story for another day.
And we better get to the point of why it's going. Why has it outlived its usefulness?
Right. There were things that longwave can do. It can reach parts that others can't. So if you're out walking or driving in the Scottish Highlands, where realistically you are not going to get mobile phone coverage, you are not going to get DAB, you are not going to get FM, you still can get longwave. And people like that will be disenfranchised. Yeah, a few people will lose. It's not like the digital switch-off back 2012-13, where there was a huge effort to ensure that people could still receive analog switch-off, where people could still receive digital TV. I don't know what the residual audience is on longwave, but it's probably quite small, but I'm speculating.
And what does the BBC say about why it's shutting these transmitters down?
Right, the BBC doesn't actually own its transmitters. In 1997, the whole transmitter network was privatised. And so whether you're listening on long wave, medium wave, VHF, FM, DAB, Freeview, whatever, the BBC does not own the transmitters that are sending that out to you. The BBC buys transmission as a service from a private company and pays the company a certain amount to keep each transmitter running. I'm not privy to commercial details on this, and the BBC has decided that it's no longer worth paying for that company to keep the Droitwich transmitter running. There's no reason, if it wanted to pay the money and the will was there, yes, of course it could do it.
And I should just say that the BBC said the longwave infrastructure is owned and operated by a third party who have advised us the platform is now coming to an end. The end of its life as a technology. Continuing would require significant investment to replace aging equipment and sustain a platform now used by a very small proportion of listeners. It says no programs will be lost as a result.
That sounds realistic.
And I'm curious, I'm not going to do an actual test here, but if you were to turn on your longwave radio here, or let's imagine next week when everything's been turned off and went along, would you find anything to listen to at all now the BBC's not using it?
There are 5 countries still broadcasting on longwave, all in Europe and Asia. America never used longwave.
This is a very difficult pub quiz question, isn't it?
I had to look it up. Algeria, Mongolia, Morocco, Poland and Romania. You stand a fair chance of getting Poland or Romania with a good radio. This one wouldn't get it. It's really not up to it. You'd need a decent aerial and a good radio. But it's possible. The longwaves can cover vast distances.
And do you feel any regret at the end of this?
Of course I do. We're coming to the end of long wave, even medium wave, which was a stalwart for so many years. That's coming to an end. The only BBC national service left there is 5 Live, plus a load of local radio stations.
And Katie and I have been fretting in the office before today's programme that if we were in some sort of apocalyptic scenario and longwave weren't on, would we be at a disadvantage? Is this development making us less prepared?
In theory, yes, but an awful lot of people don't have long-wave radios anymore. Most car radios don't cover long-wave. Most radios you can get today, you're lucky if they've got medium wave, let alone long-wave.
But a few of us do, and would we be better off in the apocalypse?
In theory,
That's
possibly.
my fear.
I mean, preparing for the apocalypse, you know, we're losing our landline, the old-fashioned landline phones. That's another thing.
You're listening to BBC Radio 4 on 198 kHz longwave. This service is closing. BBC transmissions on this frequency will end on the 27th of June this year. However, you can continue to listen in many other ways. You can find BBC Radio 4 online via BBC Sounds. Radio 4 is available on DAB, digital radio, and through your digital television, including Freely. Radio 4 is also available via FM radio on 92 to 95 megahertz and 103 to 105 megahertz. Plus, you can listen via your smart speaker. Just say, play Radio 4. Information on how to listen can be found on the BBC website at bbc.co.uk/reception.
And so long, longwave.
This is BBC Radio 4, serving the whole of the United Kingdom on 1500 metres, 200 kilohertz.
Listeners, prepare to wave goodbye to long-wave broadcasting. We reflect on an illustrious history. But we'll start with the BBC News, read today by Chris Aldridge. Now, it is a moment in history that at PM we feel compelled to mark, the end of an era, because at 1 o'clock tomorrow morning, BBC Radio 4's long-wave service will close. The transmitter at Droitwich in Worcestershire, supported by relay transmitters at Burghead and Westerglen in Scotland, has been broadcasting for more than 90 years, carrying everything from wartime messages to the shipping forecast and test match special. The BBC says the transmitter technology is ageing and increasingly costly to maintain. Arqiva, who operates the transmitter, said it had a shared history with the BBC and that it had been an honour to maintain the long-wave transmitters on their behalf. Well, Gabriel O'Regan takes a look back at the history of longwave at the BBC.
This is BBC Radio 4, serving the whole of the United Kingdom on 1500 metres, 200 kilohertz.
November 1978, the moment Radio 4 arrived on longwave, and with it a new UK theme to mark the occasion. After almost 50 years on the frequency, and over a century since the BBC first broadcast on longwave,
the BBC will end broadcasts of Radio 4 on longwave later this year.
1 o'clock tomorrow morning will mark the end of Radio 4's longwave service. The Daventry transmitter, which opened in July 1925, was the world's first permanent high-powered long-wave transmitting station, a single aerial on a hill, but enough to reach 94% of the population. Libby Purvis presented on Radio 4 for more than 40 years, but her love of radio started long before that.
A little transistor radio was like the mobile phone is for children today, and I longed for nothing more than this extraordinary magic thing in my shorts pocket. People just talking to me out of this tiny box I'd carry around with me.
By 1934, the Daventry transmitter was replaced by a far more powerful one at Droitwich in Worcestershire.
This is Droitwich testing on a wavelength of 15.
I'm Jim Lee. I've been a Radio 4 announcer and newsreader for nearly 30 years. I was lucky enough to visit the Droitwich transmitting site. And when you stand at the bottom of the mast, the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. And it's not because of the excitement, it's not because of being an anorak, it was because there's so much RF energy floating around there that you can actually feel it.
Ici, non. Les Français parlent au français.
During the Second World War, BBC transmitters, including the long-wave signals from Droitwich, carried coded messages to the French resistance, the powerful waves able to penetrate deep into occupied territory. After the war, BBC Longwave carried the Light programme, then Radio 2, and finally, in 1978, Radio 4.
Welcome. We're glad you found us. And welcome to our new listeners in Scotland, in Wales, in Northern Ireland. And welcome to our new friends who may be listening across the English Channel. Welcome, gentlemen sailing the high seas.
The shipping forecast came with it, but not because it belonged to Radio 4, but because it belonged to longwave. It was the only signal that could reach sailors at sea.
And now the shipping forecast is issued by the Met Office.
This is Peter Jefferson. I used to read the shipping forecast on Radio 4. Being on longwave, you had the clarity aspect as well, in knowing that whoever was listening, maybe quite possibly at sea, was not listening under ideal circumstances, so you had to make sure that your diction and pronunciation was as clear as possible.
Good morning from John Timpson and Libby Purvis.
I have been a radio professional, but I've also been a radio listener, and a very dependent radio listener when sailing in small boats around our coasts. There was something about the absolute calm, professional accuracy. No silly little disc jockey jokes or raised eyebrows or little additions. No, just the forecast.
That's the end of this shipping bulletin.
Longwave was also the home of Test Match Special. Well, it was eventually.
When Test Match Special came to Radio 4 Longwave, it was feeling a bit unloved, and they weren't made particularly welcome by Radio 4. I'm Andy Rushton, and I was for a long time the announcer for Test Match Special on Radio 4 Longwave. You were well aware of the Longwave audience because they were very quick to get in touch, some of whom were very annoyed at having their days of listening to Radio 4 interrupted by cricket.
The shipping forecast has actually rather stymied us, and you know that the game is going to end or whatever it may be during the shipping forecast. What do? Millions of people listening, and off they go to learn all about Rockall. But we'll miss it. We'll miss the shipping forecast.
And it wasn't just cricket or weather. For decades, 198 kHz longwave was the daily heartbeat of institutional Britain.
And here on longwave, it's time for the daily service.
And the steady churn of democracy.
But here on Radio 4 Longwave, it's time for Yesterday in Parliament.
Gradually, though, the programmes, traditions, quirks, and relevance of a network and wavelength steeped in history have faded away. The UK theme, composed to welcome Radio 4 to longwave, was dropped in 2006.
Which of course means that now we've come to a rather an historic moment. We're about to hear for the very last time live here on BBC Radio 4, the UK theme.
In 2023, Test Match Special left the frequency. In 2024, the longwave shipping forecast came to an end, and one of those forecasts would dip out of PM just before the news.
And for the very final time, that's where we leave PM here on BBC Radio 4 198 Longwave.
Since then, Radio 4 Longwave has been a simulcast of the Radio 4 FM schedule. Until tomorrow.
Longwave radio is an old plough horse which is off to the knackers. We can't change that, but it creates a moment of nostalgia and a moment of gratitude as well.
Gabriel O'Regan on the truly momentous end of longwave. We are still here, of course, and on Monday.
Information on how to listen can be found on the BBC website at bbc.co.uk/reception.
Death and destruction in Venezuela, where tens of thousands of people are listed as missing after two powerful earthquakes.
This is BBC Radio 4.
BBC News at midnight. This is Chris Aldridge. US forces have tonight hit targets near the Strait of Hormuz, saying the strikes were a response to an Iranian attack on a commercial ship in the strategically important waterway. Search and rescue efforts are ramping up in Venezuela.
In a few moments here on Radio 4, the shipping forecast. This is BBC Radio 4. Now, the shipping forecast issued by the Met Office on behalf of the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency at 0015 on Saturday, the 27th of June, 2026. The general synopsis at 1800. Low Malin, 1008. Expected Bailey, 993 by 1800 Saturday. New high, expected German Bight, 1016 by same time. The area forecast for the next 24 hours. Viking, north Atsira, south Atsira. Variable 2 to 4, becoming southerly 4 or 5, occasionally 6 later. Showers and fog patches, moderate or good, occasionally very poor. 40s, Cromarty 4th. Variable 2 to 4, becoming south 4 or 5, occasionally 6 later. Showers, thundery at first with fog patches, moderate or good, occasionally very poor at first. Tyne, Dogger. Variable 2 to 4, becoming south 4 or 5 later. Showers, thundery in Dogger, good, occasionally poor. Fisher. Variable 2 to 4, showers, thundery later with fog patches, moderate or good, occasionally very poor later. German Bight, Humber, Thames, Dover, White, Portland. Variable 2 to 4, thundery showers, moderate or good, occasionally poor. Plymouth, south veering southwest 3 to 5, showers, good, occasionally moderate. Biscay, variable 2 to 4, becoming west 3 to 5 later, thundery showers, good, occasionally moderate. Trafalgar, west 2 to 4, veering northwest 3 to 5, showers, good. Fitzroy, Seoul, south southwest, veering west later 4 to 6, occasional rain, good, occasionally moderate. Lundy, Fastnet, south southwest 4 to 6, showers, rain later, good, occasionally moderate. Irish Sea, southerly 4 to 6, occasionally 7 and west. Showers, rain later, moderate or good, occasionally poor. Shannon, south 4 or 5, veering southwest 5 or 6, rain or showers, good, occasionally poor. Rockall, cyclonic 4 to 6, becoming southwest 5 to 7 later, rain at times, moderate or good, occasionally poor. Malin, Hebrides, cyclonic becoming south 4 to 6, rain or showers, thundery at first, moderate or good, occasionally poor. Bailey, southeast becoming cyclonic 4 to 6, occasional rain, good, occasionally poor. Fair Isle, east veering south 4 to 6, rain or showers, thundery at first with fog patches, moderate or good, occasionally very poor at first. Faroes, east southeast 4 to 6, rain at times, moderate or good, occasionally poor. And southeast Iceland, southerly backing easterly 4 to 6, becoming cyclonic 5 to 7 later, perhaps gale 8 later in northwest, occasional rain, moderate or good, occasionally poor. And now the weather reports from coastal stations for 2300. Tyree automatic, southeast 3. Stornoway, northeast 3, recent rain 4 miles 1010, falling. Lerwick, northeast 3, 24 miles 1015, falling slowly. Wick automatic, east-southeast 3, recent fog 3 miles 1014, falling more slowly. Aberdeen, northeast by east 1, slight rain 600 meters 1013, falling slowly. Lucas, east-northeast 3, 4 miles 1013, now rising. Boomer, northeast by north 2, fog 200 meters 1013, rising more slowly. Bridlington, west-northwest 2, 1013, rising more slowly. Sandetti light vessel automatic, southwest 6, 2 miles 1016. Greenwich light vessel automatic, south-southwest 3, 2 miles 1018. St. Catherine's Point automatic, west-northwest 1, 1018, rising slowly. Jersey, Northeast 2, 16 miles, 1018, now falling. Channel light vessel automatic. South by west 2, 1019. Scilly automatic. South 4, mist. 4 miles, 1016, now falling. Milford Haven. South by west 3, 8 miles, 1016, steady. Aberporth. South by west 4, 27 miles, 1016, rising slowly. Valley. South-southwest 5, 9 miles, 1015, rising slowly. Liverpool Crosby. West 3, 14 miles, 1015, rising more slowly. Valentia. South by east 3, 22 miles, 1010, now falling. Ronaldsway. South 5, mist. 5 miles, 1013, rising slowly. Malin Head. East by south 2, 7 miles, 1007, falling. And Machrihanish automatic. East-southeast 4, recent drizzle, 5 miles, 1010, rising slowly. And here's the weather forecast for the inshore waters of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, valid for the following 24 hours, issued by the Met Office at 2300. The general situation: a strengthening southwesterly flow will affect northern and western waters on Saturday, while a slack and humid flow continues to affect waters elsewhere. During Sunday, a change to a westerly flow will spread fresher conditions eastwards across all parts. Cape Wrath to Rattray Head, including Orkney. East 3 to 5, occasionally 6 near Cape Wrath. Veering south, occasionally 6 near Rattray Head, then becoming variable 2 to 4 later. Rain or showers, perhaps thundery at first, with fog patches. Moderate or good, occasionally very poor at first. Rattray Head to Berwick upon Tweed. Variable 2 to 4, becoming south 4 to 6. Fog patches and drizzle at first, then showers. Moderate or poor, occasionally very poor, becoming good. Berwick upon Tweed to Whitby. Variable 2 to 4, becoming southeast 3 to 5, then veering south or southwest 2 to 4 later. Drizzle at first, then showers. Moderate or poor, becoming good. Whitby to Gibraltar Point. Variable 1 to 3, becoming south or southeast 2 to 4, occasionally 5 later. Showers, good, occasionally moderate at first. Gibraltar Point to Northforeland. Variable becoming southerly or southeasterly later, 2 to 4. Thundery showers, moderate or good, occasionally poor. Northforeland to Selsey Bill. Westerly 2 to 4, becoming variable 1 to 3, occasionally 4 later. Thundery showers, moderate or good, occasionally poor. Selsey Bill to Lyme Regis. West 2 to 4, becoming variable 1 to 3, then southwest 2 to 4 later. Showers, thundery in east, fair later, moderate or good, occasionally poor in east. Lyme Regis to Land's End, including the Isles of Scilly. Variable 2 to 4, becoming south or southwest 3 to 5. Showers later, good, occasionally moderate. Land's End to St. David's Head, including the Bristol Channel. Variable 2 to 4, becoming south or southwest 3 to 5. Occasionally 6 near Pembrokeshire. Showers later, good, occasionally moderate in west. St. David's Head to Great Orme Head, including St. George's Channel. South 3 to 5, veering southwest 4 to 6. Showers, rain later, moderate or good. Great Orme Head to the Mull of Galloway. Variable 2 to 4 at first in Liverpool Bay, otherwise southerly or southwesterly 4 or 5, occasionally 6 and north. Showers, rain later, moderate or good, occasionally poor at first in north. Isle of Man. Southerly or southwesterly 4 to 6, occasionally 7 later in west. Fog patches at first, rain later, moderate or good, occasionally very poor at first. Loch Foyle to Carlingford Loch. Southerly or southeasterly 4 to 6, occasionally 7 in east. Showers, rain later, good, occasionally poor. Mull of Galloway to Mull of Kintyre, including the Firth of Clyde and North Channel. Southerly or southeasterly 4 to 6, occasionally 7 in North Channel. Showers, rain later, good, occasionally poor. Mullet Kintyre to Ardnamurchan Point. South to southeast 4 to 6. Showers, rain later, moderate or good, occasionally poor later. Ardnamurchan Point to Cape Wrath. East to southeast 3 to 5, occasionally 6 near Cape Wrath. Veering south to southwest 4 to 6. Rain or showers, thundery at first, moderate or good, occasionally poor. And Shetland Isles, east 3 or 4, veering south to southeast 4 or 5, occasional rain and fog patches, showers later, moderate or good, occasionally very poor. And that completes the shipping forecast. Well, before we leave you tonight, I just wanted to take a moment to mark the end of an era. For almost a century, the longwave transmitters have carried the BBC across the airwaves, from the iconic Droitwich transmitting station in Worcestershire to Westerglen and Burghead in Scotland. And though the longwave signal is fading into history this morning, the memories and the connection it created will endure forever. We shall miss your warmth and crackle. Well, that's it from me, Al Ryan, and all of us here at Broadcasting House. If you have been, thanks for listening. Have a safe, quiet and peaceful night. Good night. Ihawa.
You are listening to 198 kHz longwave. BBC Radio 4 is no longer available on this frequency. However, you can find Radio 4 many other ways. You can find BBC Radio 4 online via BBC Sounds. Radio 4 is available on DAB digital radio and through your digital television, including Freely. Radio 4 is also available via FM radio on 92 to 95 MHz and 103 to 105 MHz. Plus, you can listen via your smart speaker. Just say, play Radio 4. Information on how to listen can be found on the BBC website at bbc.co.uk/reception. You are listening to 198 kHz longwave. BBC Radio 4 is no longer available on this frequency. However, you can find Radio 4 many other ways. You can find BBC Radio 4 online via BBC Sounds. Radio 4 is available on DAB digital radio and through your digital television, including Freely. Radio 4 is also available via FM radio on 92 to 95 MHz and 103 to 105 MHz. Plus, you can listen via your smart speaker. Just say, play Radio 4. Information on how to listen can be found on the BBC website at bbc.co.uk/reception.